Well, researchers say Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia, and it's one of the biggest medical challenges of our time.
And I got a chance to catch up with two researchers to learn about new breakthroughs. Take a look.
Okay, so at any one time, just right now, there's maybe 6 million people or so in the United States with Alzheimer's disease and 50 million worldwide. But we talk about the patient with Alzheimer's disease, but for everybody with Alzheimer's disease, it also affects 3 or 4 family members. We say about 80, for those aged over age 85, about 50% or so of Alzheimer's disease. So it's very common in our aging population now. There's a lot more of it now than there has been ever.
What about obviously, people who know Alzheimer's know, forgetfulness and stuff, but what are the most common symptoms along with that?
Well, forgetfulness and memory is certainly a large part, and particularly short-term memory. So forgetting what you did this morning or yesterday becomes an issue. But more than that, it affects your ability to do everyday things. So getting washed, dressed, organising your day, maybe cooking, grocery shopping, etc. But then changes in mood and behaviour becomes quite an issue as the disease progresses, and that may be more agitation or depression, day-night disorientation, paranoia, hallucinations. The behavioural aspects really become a lot more common as the disease progresses.
And I see here you guys conducted a study. What did you find out?
So the important things from the study were that we identified that patients with Alzheimer's disease are actually deficient in nutrients called carotenoids, these are plant pigments that are in high concentrations in the brain. In this particular study, we identified a way to enhance the delivery of these nutrients to the brain, and the patients with Alzheimer's disease experienced improvements in quality of life, such as mood, memory, and sight. And this is a lead-on from many earlier studies that we had conducted.
What is it about these compounds that's benefiting?
These compounds have very powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and oxidative stress and inflammation are processes that are major implications for Alzheimer's disease. So if we have a safe and effective nutritional supplement such as what was used in the study, now we can increase the amounts of these in the targeted population and to their target tissues. This is a very important stepping stone in the right direction, working with Alzheimer's disease and indeed with prevention of that condition.
I'm all about, I love prevention, but I love it through diet and consuming, plant-based foods. But is changing your diet helpful, and why are the nutrients delivered in a supplement instead of just trying to find natural foods?
Okay, well, you're so right. Diet and exercise is key to helping slow down the progression of the disease. But for this particular outcome, we would be unable to take in the amount of nutrients that are required. So even through a very good diet, we wouldn't be able to take in enough of the nutrients and the fish oils to achieve the target delivery to the brain. And that's why we have used and would recommend a supplement in this situation.
This is good stuff. Plans for additional research, I'm sure, is coming, because obviously this disease just continues to become more prevalent. But where can our viewers get more information about what you guys are going to be up to?
Yes, for more information on the study, your viewers can go to my scientific website, that's profjohnnolan.com. And for more information on the supplement that's been used in the trial, you can go to memoryhealth.com.
And that was Memory Health that brought you that information.